Abhimanyu Mishra became the youngest Grandmaster in chess history back in 2021. He achieved the title at just the age of 12 years and 4 months. Since then, he has grown into the rising star on the world stage. At the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025, he scored a stunning victory over the world champion, Gukesh. So let's look at this game. Abhimanyu has white pieces and Gukesh is black. So the game started with e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, the Italian game. Abhimanyu played d3, knight f6 was played by Gukesh. Now, Abhimanyu replied with bishop g5, not one of the most popular moves, but since Italian is getting popular, players are trying out different moves to out-prepare their opponent, but it's not going to be an easy task to out-prepare the world champion in the opening. So Gukesh played h6, bishop h4 was played, then a6, castle, d6, c3, bishop a7 just to slide the bishop back. The usual Italian ideas. Then knight b d2 was played. Now Gukesh played g5 in this position. So he is not worried about weakening his king side too much because he has not castled there. So he's like, okay, I can try to put more pressure on the king side. And as we can see from the timings of both players, that they are still in their preparation. Now, Gukesh played a rare move, knight h7. So this was his preparation. And in this position, Abhimanyu went into a deep thought of 20 minutes. And then he played the move. So before I show that to you, let me ask you, if your opponent is going for the flank attack, h6, g5, knight h7, and then maybe h5 type of ideas. So what should we try to do? Of course, we must strike at the center. The flank attack must be dealt with the break in the center. Because what happens is when such moves are played, then certain weaknesses are created. But if the position is not open enough, then we would not be in a situation to take advantage of that. So the central pawn break helps us in taking advantage of those weaknesses. Then in this position, Gukesh, actually, so Abhimanyu in this position sacrifices that central pawn. But what happens if Gukesh takes it? No worries. Knight takes d4, knight takes d4, c takes d4, bishop takes d4. There is this nice move, queen a4 check. And then, so there is this, bishop f7 check and then queen takes d4. So if king f8, then also no worries. White is down a pawn, but black's king side has gotten significantly weak. So Gukesh did not do that. So then what did he do? So before we look at that, I have a special announcement to make. So we are bringing full courses soon on chessneurons.com. Some of them like exchange of pieces, the restricting pieces, and the open file are already prepared. These courses are designed to take your understanding of positional chess to the next level. If you have ideas for other topics that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments and I'd love to hear your suggestions. And stay tuned because soon courses on chessneurons.com are coming. So let's get back to the game. So in this position, Gukesh played the move h5. So he is still in his preparation. Then Abhimanyu fought for 12 more minutes and then he played the move d takes e5. He's ready to sacrifice the piece. So the complex line would have been h4, knight takes h4, queen h5, threatening mate by the way, queen e7, bishop takes h4, queen f8. Abhimanyu is down a piece, but he has 3 pawns and he has some pressure on the king side. So it's a complicated game actually. So Gukesh should have played h4, but he chose a different way to try to win the piece. He played g4. So his idea was that if the knight moves, then he will be able to take the e5 pawn and keep the pressure on the king side. But this is not why Abhimanyu had played d takes e5. He plays fearless chess. He decides to sacrifice a piece. He plays the move e takes d6. So G takes F3 was played. D takes E7. He takes another pawn. That pawn is defended by the bishop and the queen is being attacked. If this, then knight takes F3. Now Abhimanyu has 4 pawns for the piece. And the problem for Gukesh is the king. Cannot castle on the queen side because of this pawn. King side is already too weak. Center will remain weak. So, but one of the most important qualities of Gukesh is that he's a fighter. And in this position, he developed the bishop by playing bishop g4. Abhimanyu played h3 and then he went back bishop e6. So basically he wanted to provoke h3, create certain weaknesses. Abhimanyu improved the bishop's position. Then he strengthened that bishop. Now after king at e7, he should have played king h1. So sliding the king over from the g file. And then he can play a4, b4, b5 and then he can try to put some pressure on the queen side. And he has a really good position. But he made a mistake in this position. He played knight d4. The point is that after bishop takes d4, c takes d4, now Gukesh gets very nice blockade on the light squares because these 2 pawns, dark squares, this pawn, dark square, this bishop, dark squares. But now Gukesh is creating the blockade on the dark squares. Then queen takes h5 was played. Knight f6, bringing the knight on f6, improving it, queen f5 check. Queen e6. Gukesh is not worried about exchanging the queens because he's like, okay, if you take my knight, take your bishop, this pawn is weak and I'm out of danger. So then Abhimanyu played f4. Knight d5 was played. Then he played f5. Once again, fearless chess. He wants to open the f file so that he can create some activity. He takes f5. Rook takes f5. Now, Gukesh is not worried about the activity. He's like, I'll take the pawn. I'm not worried. Abhimanyu played rook f7. King e6, and now he improves the rook's position. He knows that okay, one pawn is lost, but that's fine. He still has 4 pawns for the piece. So in this position, rook h8 was played. So the thing is that even if Abhimanyu has 4 pawns for the piece, but because of those active knights and also they are in the center, it's restricting much of white's activity. Then Abhimanyu played g4, pushing the pass pawn. Knight b5 was played. Rook h7 was played, so he's planning to at some point maybe play rook h6 or maybe even bring the other rook on the 7th rank. So depending on what Gukesh will do. Then in this position, Gukesh played rook g6. This was not the best move. He could have just played something like this. And then in this position, it's if rook h6, if king takes e7, then this rook, for example, can get a bit active and then create some issues. But he doesn't need to play that. For example, he can just play king e7 and the position is complicated, but there is a good chance that it will fizzle out to equality with good play from both players. So he played the move rook g6, and now Abhimanyu should have played rook d1, trying to keep the pressure through here as well. And there is also another reason that he can play a4, and the knight won't get to d4. But then he played rook f7, not the most accurate move. So here, Gukesh should have played knight takes d6, e takes d6, king d6, and he has really good chance to defend the position. Rook d7 check, king c6, and then there is rook g8. So yeah, this with a good play from both sides, this should fizzle out to a draw. But Gukesh played rook c8, so it's still good, but this is allowing Abhimanyu to keep some pressure on Gukesh. Then rook d7, planning to play something like this. So rook h6 was played, trying to exchange the rooks. He takes the pawn. Now Abhimanyu wants to restrict the knight. Plays knight d4, then bishop c5, attacking the knight. Then in this position, Gukesh should have played something like rook d3, and the position is extremely complicated actually. So rook d8 and then rook d1 check, and then eventually it's so complicated that the logical end should be perpetual check. But then here Gukesh made a mistake. He gave this check. Abhimanyu played king f1. Then knight f4 was played. Here Abhimanyu was extremely precise. There was only one move that keeps the advantage for him, and that is bishop d4. Not only defending the pawn, but also threatening rook d6 mate. Then Gukesh gave this check. Then he gave this check, king d2, and now he has run out of useful checks. He's able to win the central pawn, but that's not that great for him because there is bishop takes e5, king takes e5, rook g5 check. His knight will go, and now he has this advanced pass pawn. He has another pawn, so he's 2 pawns up now. He gives up 1 pawn because he knows that he just needs to push his g pawn or just somehow get his rook to d8, and then he would be able to win the game. So the game went on, and then Abhimanyu pushed his pass pawn. And then Gukesh gave some checks, but yeah, now there is Rook F8 incoming, and then in this position, Gukesh resigned. So a fantastic and fearless game by Abhimanyu, and let's see how the rest of his FIDE Grand Swiss goes, and Gukesh, how he fights back in the subsequent rounds and makes a comeback is what we'll see later.